Hey guys, I hope this video finds you well. I hope you're enjoying some of the newly found Cleveland sunshine. I know for many of you as families and as students, the school year is coming to a close, and I'm glad that you guys have made it through another school year, that we've seen God's grace even in these uncertain times. For most of the announcements that I've had to bring your guys' way during the past couple of months have been a bit of a downer. It's come with news like we're not meeting in person, with plans for how to meet virtually, and we're grateful to God for those things and for the way that this unique technological age we live in gives us a chance to stay in touch in the way that we've been able to over these past couple of months. But it is my great joy to announce that for both middle school and high school students that we're actually going to meet together in a safe way next week. For middle schoolers on June 2nd, so that's a Tuesday, and for high school on June 4th, that's a Thursday, we're going to meet here at the church for our last small group of the year. Now, you'll remember with me that small groups normally meet at local host homes, but due to everything that's going on, we're going to meet at the church, and weather permitting, we'll meet outside, we'll sit socially distanced, and we'll have the chance to get to catch up from how we've missed one another, to see one another in person, and to be able to reflect on what God has been teaching us as we've studied the book of Philippians throughout this school year. It's not only that we're looking forward to, but in the subsequent weeks following that, so that's June 9th for middle school and June 11th for high school, and the Tuesdays and Thursdays that will follow, we're going to begin having SI again. Now, we won't, please hear me, meet at the loft or warehouse, but we're actually going to continue to meet at Parkside Church. And what we're going to do is that we've arranged the auditorium in such a way that we can fit a bunch of students in there, and we'll have the opportunity to sit socially distanced and yet still to sing, and yet still to have the opportunity to hear God's word preached, to be nearer to one another even as we practice safe social distancing habits. Now, I've gotten to share some of this exciting news with you. I hope that you're thrilled as you hear it, and I'm going to send it over to Danny, who has some further expectations of what we can imagine this to look like as we look forward to next week.
Thanks, Mac. I'm so looking forward to being with you guys in person again. Really looking forward to the month of June and all that it has in store for us as we inch back towards getting back to normal together. As we talk about and think about what that's going to look like when we gather together again, I've got some guidelines that are temporary but are going to be necessary for us as we move back towards normal life as a church. So these are the guidelines that we're going to roll out, not just for the youth group, but also for the whole church. I'm going to call them the big three. They're the three big rules or guidelines that we're going to have to follow through the month of June. Okay, so the three rules are going to be temperature, masks, and social distancing. Temperature, masks, and social distancing, okay? Number one is we are going to require that before you come to youth group, before you show up to small groups or the large gathering, we would ask that you would take your temperature ahead of time just to make sure that you're feeling well, that you're not running a fever. It'd be easiest if you take your temperature ahead of time, but if you forget or if you're unable to, we'll have some thermometers that we can press against your forehead when you show up to the church to make sure that you're all well. Okay, so please do that to make sure that you're not running a fever. Rule number two is that we are going to ask that everybody is going to bring masks with them when they come to any of our student ministry gatherings throughout the month of June. Now, when we're meeting outdoors, we are not going to require that you wear masks, but we would like you to bring it with you anyways, just in case we do need to move indoors for weather or whatever it might be. When we are indoors, we're going to require that you're wearing a mask at all times, except for when we're gathering in the small group discussion groups, where in those groups you'll have the opportunity to pull the mask down when your leader indicates that it's okay to do so. So please bring a mask to all the student ministry gatherings that we have through the month of June. Anytime that we're indoors, we're going to be almost always wearing those. So if you don't have a mask, I'd ask that you would go and get one so that you can wear it to all the different places you need to go. If you're unable to, please reach out to me. There are a handful of different ways that we can get those masks into your hands if you're unable to find one or get one. Just let us know. You can DM the Instagram or email Danny or Mac to let us know. Okay, and then the third thing, really important, is social distancing. You guys have heard this term over and over again. I'm sure you're sick of it, but that also means that you probably know the rules. It's 6 to 8 feet, no contact with people, no touching, and we're going to ask that you guys honor and respect that rule, that you don't touch other people, that you would stay a reasonable distance, 6 to 8 feet away from everyone when we gather, so that we can do our best to play our part and to be safe while we're gathering. Okay, so the big three: temperature, masks, and social distancing. These are temporary guidelines, but they are guidelines that we would ask that you follow. Now, as we get back into gathering together, all across the board, we got people who feel very differently about this entire situation and how you personally feel like handling it, and whether you're more sensitive to all the different rules and guidelines, and some of us are feeling like we don't want to follow any of the rules, and that's okay wherever you are on that spectrum of a response to this situation. But one of the things that is going to be really important when we gather together is to understand that when you come to our student ministry gatherings at Parkside, we're really requiring that you agree to follow the guidelines and the rules that we've put in place for you, even if you disagree with them. And that includes those big three rules. That includes when your leaders are indicating what you should be doing or where you should be going. That includes staying in the designated areas that you're supposed to be within the church. All of those things we are really going to require of you as you come to gather together. And even though that might be frustrating or might be unappealing to you as you think about coming back together, it's actually a really cool and unique opportunity, I think, to communicate something about what we believe about the gospel and what we believe about who Jesus is. We studied Philippians this year, and in Philippians chapter 2, there's that song that shows up there that talks about how Jesus, even though he was completely God and was entitled to all the things that come along with being God, Jesus actually emptied himself and laid aside all those things that he was entitled to in order to sacrifice for us and to love us. He laid those things aside, emptied himself, and counted others as more significant than himself, and he humbled himself. And that is one of the most central things about the gospel, that Jesus, the Son of God, God himself, gives up everything that he's entitled to in order to sacrifice for us and to love us. And so, in many ways, in the time that we go through this pandemic, we have an opportunity to do something very similar and to reflect the love of Jesus in our life. And even though we might be entitled to feel certain ways about the situation, we might feel like we have the ability to, or the opinions towards certain things, we actually have the wonderful opportunity to lay those things aside and to count others as more significant than ourselves, just the way that Jesus did. And in that way, reflect the love of Christ to people, and to love our neighbor the way that we would love ourselves. And I really want that to be the principle behind how we think about following all these rules and how we think about this entire month as we move forward. And even though SI isn't going to be the same as it usually is, and it might be a little more uncomfortable or maybe just not as fun as it usually is, we have a wonderful opportunity to honor God, to gather together and to worship him together again, even at the cost of our own comfort and the cost of our own preferences. We have a sweet opportunity to lay those things aside for the good of others, to count them as more significant than ourselves, and to glorify Jesus when we do that. So I'm really looking forward to June. I hope that you are too. We are going to post this little update to the YouTube in the Instagram, but in the email that's going to go out as well to parents and students, we're going to have attached a more detailed list of all the guidelines that are going to come along with how we'll gather together in June. So I encourage you to all look at that, check it out. If you have any questions, reach out to me or Mac or any of your leaders, and we'd be glad to discuss them with you. All right, I look forward to seeing you guys this coming Tuesday and Thursday as we gather again together in small groups. See you soon.